Ahoy there! Welcome to Adventure Calls. This is a Sea of Thieves podcast here on my channel. I'm your host, Speaker, and today I'm joined by my two crewmates from last time, Cheeto and Derry.
Hey buddies, hey, hi.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Oh, it took us forever to start because speaker fell asleep, wasn't responding.
Yeah, I'm the
So,
one who fell asleep.
Yeah, it's not like
yeah.
certain other someone fell asleep.
Today we'll be discussing the fourth adventure to hit the Sea of Thieves, Lost Sands. This was the last adventure of Season 6, but since Season 7 has been delayed, this is the third adventure, and the second to last, I should say. And this is part of the ongoing Flameheart story arc. So, this all started with Shrouded Islands, which came in February, I believe. The fog of the damned has shrouded Golden Sands, and all of its vendors have left the outpost. So let's talk about that, because Golden Sands is very relevant in this adventure, am I right?
Yep, the
Yeah.
whole fate of it was decided by this adventure.
Let's not give too much away. Little Derry.
Gary's little.
I'm very, very little, guys.
So the fog of the damned itself that has shrouded these islands was present as well on Crescent Isle, Marauder's Arch, and Devil's Ridge, as well as Shipwreck Bay, as a part of the Shrouded Islands adventure. But the only island to stay shrouded beyond that was Golden Sands. When you ask Merrick about it, he says, turns out the Reapers have been mucking about with more of them dark relics to keep this place green and gloomy, hoping to scare us away. So the Reapers have planted these dark relics deep within the sands of gold, and have shrouded the island. And I think that's a pretty sound explanation.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So
I like that the dark relics are still part of the storyline. That's something from back in 2019, and I always love when they bring back old story elements.
yeah,
Feel like it's only cool on Golden Sand.
How so?
The only time it feels interactive is like on Golden Sands, like the fog and the damned rolling in. It's like the only time it's cool.
Oh, you mean in comparison to like Reaper's Hideout or Fort of the Damned, right?
Yeah.
it's a lot thicker on Golden Sands, like or at least was, I should say.
I like the fog
Yeah.
on the islands. Like, I see a lot of people complain about the green gas, and yeah, that's fair. But I don't know, man. I like that the Fort of the Damned was also done the same way with Dark Relics. You know, Stitcher Jim and Wanda's plots back in 2019 led to that island
Yeah.
being shrouded.
Yeah,
We don't really know about Reaper's Hideout, but it's safe to say that they have been doing the same shit there.
well, the fog at Reapers looks different than the fog in all the other locations, though.
The fog
It's-
on each island is different. Like, it's always a different particle effect. It's weird. But I
Really?
like that, yeah.
Well, it's like different types of green, but I know with Reapers it's more gray than green. Yeah,
Reapers, the fog is so. The way that Reapers is placed on the map, and the fact that it's foggy, I have the entire map of this game memorized. Reapers, I always miss where it is on the horizon because it's just not there. Like, I'll be standing on Wanderer's Refuge, and I, for the life of me, cannot see that goddamn island.
I mean, it is called a hideout.
You're so right. When Rare introduced adventures, they kind of teased it by saying players would decide the narrative choices. And until now, we haven't really gotten that. It's always been the tall tale style storytelling where it's a set story, start to finish. But this is the first adventure with an actual choice to be made. The fate of Golden Sands lies in the player's hands, and it's the first adventure with two quests. One from Merrick and one from the Servant of the Flame, serving the Reapers. What do you guys think about this?
I think this was probably like one of the best adventures that they've done so far, just because of the player interactivity and encouraged interactions you can have with it. There isn't that much story to be had with it, but it's the gameplay of this one that actually is a lot more fun.
And
My
even
opinion.
then, the gameplay we're doing in this adventure is pretty mundane. It's just delivering shit from point A to point B, and hey, we're no strangers to that in Sea of Thieves. That's like the entire loop, right? But compared to other adventures, which will be more exciting with like different set pieces or like character interactions, you don't get a lot of that with this one, I would say.
I think a lot of the charm with this little adventure comes from the potential player conflict.
Oh, of course. Like the way that it builds players together, and also it feels like our actions actually have some sort of effect. Like it creates a different dynamic that we have not seen before, and I want to go into that later. So instead, I would like to focus on the two different quests we got. There's Merrick's Quest, which is arguably the much more simple one. The Golden Sands traders have gone missing looking for supplies, so you go to Cannon Cove and Smuggler's Bay, and I believe another island next to Smuggler's Bay that I just can't remember right now. And you get the supplies from the traders. They have their little rowboats sanctioned with their flags up, and Reaper Phantoms will ambush you, and you return to Merrick. That's pretty much it, and it's kinda boring, if you ask me. And then there's the Reaper's Quest. We go to Wanderer's Refuge to meet with the servant. He tells us to go to Reaper's. You go to Reaper's hideout, you get the new compass, you get the rowboats, and you're tasked with picking up dark relics and delivering them to Cannon Cove. You row around smuggling some shit, you go to Golden Sands, and you blow it up. Still not that exciting, but you got explosions, right? Like, that's cool.
Oh, go ahead.
Reapers is way more fun. It's because big kaboom.
The one thing I wanted to say was that the new addition to world content, in terms of the Reaper's rowboats, whatever they're called, with a gunpowder keg attached to them, that's what this this adventure added, which I think is a really good addition to the game as a whole.
I wanted to comment on that as well. The Soulflame rowboats are awesome. I have so many clips of us three fucking around with those rowboats and blowing people up, attaching it to the back of their boat, distracting them, and watching it blow up. That's like so much fun.
I remember that.
Yeah.
There's also the time we were sailing in the ocean and a wave sent me into the stratosphere.
Oh yeah,
That's
I'll put that in the
happened.
video right now. That is insane. So I've seen a lot of discourse about this adventure in particular. When
Oh,
you
yeah.
ask the community to take sides, it's going to get heated, especially on fucking Reddit. Don't even get me started. Reddit has been a hell zone. And honestly, I'm glad the adventure is over just because I cannot bear to see any more insane takes about this anymore. One of the points of contention I've seen is people talking about Flameheart and Flameheart Jr.'s motivations, I should say. So the war for Golden Sands has presented people with a lot of it has presented people with much of a soapbox to stand on, one that I don't think should exist. Like, it's a video game. Whichever side wins, it doesn't really matter, and I think both sides are equally as interesting, which I want to go into later. I've seen a lot of people question why Flameheart and Flameheart Jr. would even want to destroy Golden Sands, and saying it's kind of nonsensical. That I disagree with, like, completely. I think it's pretty obvious that Flameheart and Flameheart Jr. wish to embrace the true freedom that the Sea of Thieves gives, the pirate's life, pirates for all eternity and that stuff. When you have these vendors, they kind of view it as a blight on the seas, and they definitely have further plans that they haven't gone into. The servant even gives new dialogue explaining this, so I can't believe people don't read. But hey, it's the internet.
Well, I also do feel like,
Yeah.
too, that it would make sense why they'd want to take over an outpost for their own benefit, to have more territory to themselves.
Well, yeah, of
So-
course, that goes without saying.
Yeah, I don't really think it's nonsensical. I mean, why would anyone want to take anything from anyone at that point? You know what I
Pirate.
mean? Yeah, it's pirate. That's what they do.
But even from an ideological standpoint, I think it's pretty fair that Flameheart and Flameheart Jr. would wish to get rid of the vendors, send them back beyond the Shroud, keep the Sea of Thieves for themselves.
Yeah, like, fuck Ramsey's alliance server, am I right?
As for their actual plans, we don't know. Halfway through the adventure, the island was further shrouded because the Reapers were winning. And this is something I actually really like. The island itself, the fog would get thicker or thin based on who was winning. So when the servant side was winning, we could see these ghostly apparitions of phantoms standing around the island, kind of waiting around. And the fog was really thick, like you couldn't see 5 fucking feet in front of you. So we don't know what this would have led to, and at this point, judging by the actual outcome of this adventure, it's kind of a fool's errand to kind of theorize what the Reapers could have done. But I'd still want to ask you guys what you think. Or what would you have want to see from the Reaper side winning?
I personally think that we would have gotten an adventure surrounding invading this new Reapers hideout. I don't think it would be a new selling point for the Reapers.
I would hope not.
But I do think that there's two things that would have came from this. We would have gotten a new Reapers location for more lore stuff, and we might have gotten like an adventure surrounded the new locale, and we would have gotten a new outpost somewhere else instead of on
Yeah.
Golden Sands. I think it either would have replaced the sea post, like a sea post would have been built up, and we would have gotten like a dock town kind of outpost, or we would have just picked a random island or a sea fort that would be built up as well. There's a couple ways they could have done it. We'll never know because we got Golden Sands back. That's personally what I would have wanted. I personally think that it was the more interesting choice to let it burn. But what do you think, Cheetah?
Nah, you said basically everything.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. My own personal headcanon is that the Golden Sands traders would have moved on to the Sea Dogs Tavern, and Reapers taken the hideout for themselves. Or Reapers taken the outpost for themselves. I don't think it would have been another selling location. The core design of Reapers is that there's one selling location. It promotes PvP, and when someone is flying Reapers, you know where they're going to go. So,
I wonder, like, Reapers will do anything with the Sea Dogs Tavern now.
oh yeah, I think that might be their next kind of target, if you know what I mean.
Like, because no one's really chilling out there right now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of free.
Before we go on to the actual consequences of what happened and how the adventure played out, I want to talk a little bit about the journals just to get it out of the way. Merrick's journals were pretty fine. It's nice that he's back in the story. That's something I actually really appreciate, is that we can interact with him again and see what he's thinking. He's experiencing somewhat character development through his journals. He talks about the past season, seeing the Shrouded Deep, and being called back into action by Bell. You get to hear about his worries that Golden Sands will stay shrouded and that he just doesn't feel confident in himself about it. It's not too much to look into, but I appreciate that it's there. And the servant's journals are a bit better. He talks about Wanda. He talks about the Cap'n, which is pretty interesting. I don't really like the journal that he mentions the Cap'n in, but it's cool that he got name dropped anyway. He talks about the Veil of the Ancients. He talks about a couple other things that aren't too crazy to go into, but I like that we're getting journals, and I hope this continues, because that's a good way to introduce lore.
Yeah, because like a lot of the extended lore is brought up through dialogue or the books.
Exactly. And you guys, I know you guys aren't super into the extended lore, but I certainly am. And I plan to make videos on that kind of stuff too. Anything else to comment?
I like seeing actual, like, character development in funny little pirate game. I think it's cool to see the characters evolve. Especially Merrick, who's been, like, doing nothing, kinda, for a while. And now he's doing stuff, which is really cool. Let's see.
The Servant of the Flame, the last thing I want to mention. The Servant of the Flame mentions in one of his journals how a lot of his defeats, losing the Silver Blade, his flagship, and disappointing his father multiple times, with Forts of the Forgotten and, like, the Veil of the Ancients, I like that we're getting some characterization of the Servant. He's a character that I really want to see more of, because it's literally Flameheart Jr. Like, we've read his journal in the Tales of the Sea of Thieves book, and there's a lot of holes in that story that still really need to be fulfilled, and a lot of them still haven't. Especially the part about the Cap'n. I think I just want to make a separate video on that and why that doesn't make sense, but
The Captain is like one of the more mysterious characters in the extended lore.
much more mysterious. We have not even seen him in game yet. All we have is a name. It's a one-word pronoun in a book that is outside of the game. And now he's a one-word pronoun in the Dark Brethren Tall Tale.
Yeah, because I assumed that was like one of the first times he's been name dropped.
He was name dropped in 2018 in the Tales of the Sea of Thieves book before the game came out, and he was not mentioned again for 3.5 years. And this is the fourth. I think this is the third or fifth time he's been mentioned in game.
That's what I was saying. It's like one of the bigger times he's been mentioned in the game, because this is a pretty important time. But I don't know. I just hope. I'm really happy that we're getting more of the extended lore brought into the game, so you don't have to go through outside sources to understand it.
I agree. It's kind of nice to get that kind of stuff through Twitter, like different lore tidbits, but the actual lore should be present in game. And I feel like there should be some sort of encyclopedia or like compendium you can kind of check in game to read upon characters or like different states of the lore, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I wish there was like a place where you can go to wherever they decide to put it, if they put it anywhere. Any journal you've ever read, they should have a bookshelf where you can actually read through it.
Totally agree. And
Yeah,
since
if you've ever read it.
not to get ahead of myself, but with the new season 7 trailer and captaincy, we see a new bookshelf. So let's hope,
Hoping that we can read through journals we've read before. Without having to
any minute stuff to do on ships besides sailing and sitting there waiting to get to the next island is fine by me. And I would love to read about Duke shitting himself for the 4th time on my ship.
He shit himself?
No, he didn't. But imagine if he did, right? That's why he joined That's why he joined the Dark Brethren. After all, he got really embarrassed by shitting himself in front of Ramsey.
One thing
and the Dark Brethren was like accepting of him.
Yeah,
like...
the pirate's life fucking scorned him, dude. He took a shit and Ramsey saw. That's fucked up.
What?
Davy Jones is like, I've shit my pants before.
Do you fear shit?
Come to us.
Part of the shit, part of the crew.
Yeah.
Speaking of Davy Jones, this is gonna we should probably save this for the captaincy video. But this is one thing I want to mention. I really hope you can get an Oregon on your ship.
God, I hope so.
But there's one thing I wanted to mention too before we move on. I really like how this has brought up a discussion more prevalent in the community between the ideology of the Reapers and the Athena's Fortune.
Oh, yes.
Or just the general side of the quote-unquote good guys, but there aren't really good guys here because we're all pirates.
Aye.
So, but I really like that there's an actual discussion happening that's brought to the forefront because of this adventure.
I feel like I can really see what Rare is up to. They've tried to generate a lot of conversation around Sea of Thieves, and when you generate conversation on Twitter, people start to see that. Sea of Thieves went trending for the first time on Twitter, like I think a week or two ago, purely just because of like the new adventure and the mystery going on back to back. I think they're really getting at a good cadence of how to keep players enticed, and this has been the best season. Let's agree on that, right? Like,
definitely.
As for things to consistently come back to as a live service game to reliably get like new experiences out of, I don't know a better game than Sea of Thieves right now, and I haven't for a while. But I'm being serious now. Like, before I could tell you other games that were doing this kind of thing better, I don't know anymore, man. It's going pretty good.
It's probably like one of the best co-op games of this gaming like generation.
Well, of course, but I'm just talking in terms of like consistently providing players content and engaging content, like not shit.
It's more so recently too. A while ago they weren't doing this much at once, but now they've just kind of ramped up stuff and been pumping out consistently good things.
If you told me at the start of season 5 or season 4 that I would play season 6 like every single week, I would slap you. Like, I would not believe you for a second. But, man, like, I have not felt this into Sea of Thieves in so long. Like, season 4 and 5, I was really burnt out. I was like, okay, man, this content is just not enough. Like, it's good. All of it is really high quality, but it's just not enough. And now we're finally getting a great cadence. Anything else to comment?
I don't really think so right now.
So, I guess we've gone over the actual adventure. Who won, you guys?
Golden Sands won.
Merrick's side won, and that is perfectly okay. It was a great fight on both sides the entire way through. And what I wanted to say was, unlike other adventures, this was an actual active effort across the seas. Most other adventures kind of give you a one-time goal, like hunt the shrouded ghost, and once you do it, that's it. You know, it's not. That's not to say that those adventures are bad. I love those. I think I've made that clear. But this kind of thing adds a new dynamic to the seas. This is something we keep going back to. When we see a Soulflame rowboat, we bring it to Golden Sands. When we see some supplies, we bring it to Golden Sands. It generates conversation not only outside of game, but in-game too. Like, when I encounter players, I'm asking, hey, what side are you on? And if they're on Merrick's side, of course I sink them. Like, that goes without saying.
Yeah. Reapers
forever. Remember that? Remember when we had that Reaper?
There was that,
that Reaper full of loot, and we were like,
Okay, how about you... How about you guys explain this story then?
All right. So, for context for the audience, Captain Speaker, in his wise wisdom, saw a Reaper selling at Reapers. We hadn't sold anything yet.
Fucking loot.
Yeah, full. Yeah, a grade 5.
Absolutely full of loot. About to sell a Reaper.
Yeah, and in his wise wisdom, he shot himself over and talked to him instead of letting me and Cheeto just blow him full. He was free, by the way. That was a free kill.
In my defense, let me state my case, because I'm innocent until proven guilty, of course. It was like the first or second day of the adventure, all right? This guy was running Reaper. I knew I could do some shit with that, and I took my chance. I trusted the guy on a whim, and I asked him to send 2 rowboats to Golden Sands if we didn't sink him. And he sold his stuff and he logged off. But
yeah. So in your wise wisdom, you trusted a Reaper.
Good point. I was gonna come up with a rebuttal, but that's a really good point.
And the thing is too, we didn't even get the flag either. He said he was gonna give us the flag. He never did. He probably lowered it and left. And
in my actual defense, do we need the money?
I needed it that day. I was below 1 mil that
day.
There's
always more day 1 sloopers doing the Fort of the Damned.
Right.
So since this is the first adventure that gives players a narrative choice, I want to ask and propose the question, what do you guys think about players having this ability? Do you think Rare should just keep to themselves and set the story forward, or keep it more interesting this way?
I think this is going to sound like weird, I hope not. I think that they shouldn't do this all the time. I think that this should be a kind of a rare thing, because sometimes I think there'd be more interesting choices of rolling with these consequences for a while and then being presented with another choice later. I don't think that this should happen very often, just because I feel like it should be a treat, basically, instead of it being like, oh, well, and then like if they don't give the players a choice, then people will start getting mad that they couldn't make a choice on it.
I'm glad you brought that up, because in the live stream where they announced the result of the adventure and the consequences, which I'm getting to, they announced that they do plan to keep doing these in the future, but they want to stretch them out just so that it feels more impactful. Because if every single adventure we were choosing something, that would get really tiring, and I think the community would eat itself alive.
Because then anytime they didn't do that, then like they would be like, oh my god, Rare sucks, they're being lazy, they're not giving us choices, yada yada.
I'm not saying that, I'm saying what I brought up earlier with Reddit. Like, we barely fucking survived Lost Sands, you guys. The Merrick side was really bad. It's a vocal minority, and I think most people on both sides were really respectful and good to each other. Like, I've had civilized conversations on both sides of the spectrum, but you just get those vocal minority of Redditors who cannot fathom the idea of a different outpost, I guess.
You drew the Servant of the Flame on the seat and posted the Thieves Reddit, and then it got a bunch of downvotes.
Yeah, you're right.
And that makes me sad to see.
I thought it was a good drawing, but whatever, man.
It was a good drawing.
Thank you. Another question I would love to propose is, from you two, what choose-your-own adventures would you want to see? For example, Belle versus Duke, or like Flameheart versus the Captain. I think there's a lot of interesting things that could come out of this, at least from a character perspective.
Like, out of the player base deciding, or
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like in a future adventure, like this was Merrick versus the Servant. So what kind of dynamic would you want to see in the future?
I want to see. I think Belle versus Duke would be hilarious.
I agree. Those are two characters that people, I think, are really attached to. I think that would generate a lot of conversation.
And those characters don't really interact with each other. And they don't ever. They haven't interacted ever.
Duke hasn't been in the story in quite a while.
As a big broad one, I think for a relatively final Tall Tale, or not Tall Tale adventure, I think that it should be just straight up Ramsey versus Flameheart.
Oh
Straight
yeah.
up, you
I
dictate.
think that's what we're building to.
I think that will be the final adventure in this arc. Will be you pick either the Servant of the Flame or not Servant of the Flame, just straight Flameheart or Ramsey.
I think it'd be so dark if like we end the game on Flameheart winning. Like, is that just me? Like, I don't know.
I agree, but I think there's more to be said about that. I don't know if I should elaborate.
We really can't talk about it much, only because we don't know what's going to happen next.
Oh, of
Not
course.
really a whole lot. So we cannot tell where Rare's exactly going to go with it.
In that regard, I think it's pretty obvious Flameheart is going down one day. But I think upon his defeat, that is when the Dark Brethren make their move. That's all I have to say, really.
Yeah, that I have to agree with. I kind of hope that they make a move sooner, because that might be a while before Flameheart goes, but I love that they're giving attention to Flameheart when he's been kind of neglected for about 2 years.
Not about 2 years. It's been 2 years, and I completely second that. I'm glad Flameheart is getting development. Because before he was the bobblehead in the sky that everyone hated. And now he's an actual character with like motivations, and he's progressing the story. That's pretty good.
Isn't it more so? It feels like more so Flameheart Jr. than Flameheart.
Well, the way the story is right now, Flameheart Jr. is in cahoots with Flameheart, carrying out his plans to bring him back.
Okay.
So the story right now is building to Flameheart getting his body back. And that's going to happen later this year. That's been confirmed.
Well, it's Flameheart Jr. is just trying to please his father. He's carrying out his will. He's quite literally acting up as if what Flameheart wants.
Servant.
Oh yeah, sorry, the servant. Oh yeah. So I think it's a pretty interesting dynamic. I just kind of wish that we'll actually get to see Flameheart himself soon.
I have no doubt. I want to see him in a trailer. Those cinematic trailers look incredible. And I want to see him talking, making fun of people, being on fire.
Being on fire.
Yeah.
Being a cool-ass skeleton guy.
No, what if he has an actual, like, a skeleton lord body with an actual, like, human flesh? That'd be
fully fun.
I think he'll be revived as a skeleton.
No, yeah, that's his iconic design. Also, the Reapers are all about Pirates for All Eternity. So, as we stated earlier, the vendors have returned and Golden Sands is saved. They've rebuilt their outpost to its former glory, and the defenses have stayed. Flameheart is burning with rage, and the Pirate Lord has taken a personal interest in the outpost upon seeing how hard players have fought for it. The Pirate Lord likes to sit on his ass and not really interact with the Sea of Thieves story. He was absent from a pirate's life. He let pirates deal with that nonsense. He's been pretty absent until recently with The Legend of the Veil, but even then he kind of just congratulates us at the end. So hearing that the Pirate Lord has taken a personal interest in something the players are doing, what the fuck could that mean?
He'll have a more active role in the story.
And he has the Veil of the Ancients with 3 Veilstones in it.
Yeah, that's gonna go somewhere.
I think so. What do you guys want to see from, at least in the immediate future? Not even talking about the Pirate Lord or Flameheart. What do you guys want to see from Golden Sands upon it returning?
Like, I want it to feel more, like, advanced, maybe. I think that'd be
I want it to evolve. Like what just said, evolve with its architecture, using the technology from the Sea Forts.
I agree.
Yeah.
I have wanted a port Stone Town since 2015 when they announced this game, and upon seeing Isla Tesoro from Pirates of the Caribbean Tall Tales, that's the port town in Tall Tale 3. Imagine an outpost that looks like that has like stone floors and full docks and like an actual lively town of people. I want that so bad. So bad.
Yeah, it would be such a different and refreshing aesthetic to have a lively area. Ironically enough, the sea forts aren't very lively because they're filled with ghosts, but I love the environments from those. But I'd love to see that in more of a refined and cleaner fashion, filled with people. And like, I really wish that the outposts feel like they were lived in, because all we really see is the vendors. There aren't that many NPCs around.
I think we're slowly kind of building to that, a more like lively world, They've introduced a lot more slight mechanics, like characters beckoning out to you, like
Hey, come over
yeah,
here. I have a favor
I'm
to
over here.
ask.
or like that. I was gonna do that, yeah. But I hope to see someday like the Tavern of the Damned, where characters are just sitting playing instruments, getting drunk. Like it doesn't even have to be players. Like I mean NPCs. Like I
It
just want to
literally,
see more kind of interaction between the world. Because
like,
when you're at a tavern or you're at an outpost, unless you somehow spawn in with other players there, like it is a ghost town, and all the NPCs are just sitting there waiting as usual.
yeah, they have no routines or anything.
Yeah, and I think the outpost NPC should be reliable enough to where you can show up to an outpost and the shop isn't closed or anything, but like we should still see some amount of characters like moving around the outposts.
Maybe like not shopkeepers, but just random NPCs that are at different parts of the outpost at different times of day. And this might be a lot to ask from rare, but if someone's at the outpost, they'll physically walk to their next location throughout the night, or they might not even be there if it's in the middle of the night or something like
That's
that.
pretty interesting.
Just minor NPCs that fill out the outpost and feel like that they are places that people live instead of just places for the player to buy things.
One last thing I want to mention is one of Merrick's dialogue options is he says, "If we can get everything back to the way it was, maybe I'll run for mayor." I really want that, you guys.
It's
I
mayor
really
of
want that.
like Golden Sands for the Sea of Thieves.
I really want that, you guys.
Well, if Merrick runs for mayor, I really don't think he'd really have any competition unless it'd be like a really wacky plot of like the Servant of the Flame runs for mayor,
That
and
would
he
be
like
awesome.
and he
That
like
is the
and it's like a instead of like fighting with your swords, it's fighting with your words.
right.
Our
Merrick isn't much of a
well-spoken
well-spoken
Yeah.
guy, and Flameheart Jr. was a scholar when he was Flesh and Blood, so I think that's no contest. As long as he keeps the mask on, I think he can. I think he has a shot.
But I don't think it's gonna go that, but I think it'd be funny if it's just like a political race between the both of the major factions. That'd be
Who
a little
needs
goofy.
politics? We can fight with iron.
Yeah, exactly.
Disputes are settled on the waves. That's on the pirate code, after all.
Yeah, but I do think though that Merrick, I'm pretty sure his position as mayor would be uncontested. So yeah, he doesn't really have much competition because I really don't think that they'd vote for the people who drove them out of their homes, if that was even the case.
That's why he keeps the mask on, Derry.
Exactly.
Last thing I want to mention on this topic, Hunter's Call at an outpost. That's a possibility. I think that's a very likely possibility. I don't like going to sea posts. I don't sell fish anymore because I'm level 50 in Hunter's Call, and sea posts are out of the way. I go where I need to go, and that's where I go.
I just want to be able to sell my mermaid gems to Hunter's Call and call it a day.
I like that they're out of the way, but that's the reason I don't interact with them. Like I like that there's a trading company that is away from the others. They're kind of more ramshackled and basically the hillbillies of Sea of Thieves. Like they're a redneck family. But it's still so inconvenient. I hate going to sea posts.
I really think that sea posts should stay like what they are, but I do think that maybe you should be able to sell to Hunter's Call at any outpost, but if they were going to add new quests, per se, to Hunter's Call, you have to go to sea posts to get those.
I'm okay with Merrick being on Golden Sands and not returning to his sea post. Like, I'm okay with just one outpost having a Hunter's Call sell spot. That's okay.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of interesting to have different dynamics between the outposts, which have never really changed. Like, we've gotten one or two more buildings, like the Castaway Camp, but it's never been significant like that. And now we have cannons on Golden Sands, like forever. That's a lot.
I feel like that's gonna that's gonna be a part of an adventure later on or some kind of event. I feel like that's gonna play into something, or that could also make Golden Sands a very good place to sell if you have people chasing you.
Oh yeah, I already think it has been one of the best outposts, and to see it to see them refortify and have actual tangible consequences for our decisions, even though I was so heavily Team Reaper and I would never do more than one mission for Merrick, like I'm happy with this. Like, I like having an outpost, believe it or not. Even though I wanted to see what I thought would be the more interesting change, these are still substantial changes to the story, and it seems like long term this is going to be a recurring fact that Golden Sands was saved by players.
I felt that it was a little bit more predictable with like if what happened with the Golden Sands were to win. That's why I was on the side of the Reapers. But I'm like what you were saying. I'm not upset by it because content is content.
I mean, and it's good content too. Like,
Yeah.
even at first, like my original thought was I want to side with Merrick. And another thing I want to mention related to this, I'm glad my mind has changed on this. I am glad that they did not tell us what the outcomes would be. It was just based on personal like inference. It was just based on your like first thought, who do I want to side with? It's more based on emotion rather than like players nitpicking what side is going to be what. But that's exactly what it boiled down to on Reddit and stuff, is players naysaying and telling each other what was going to be in the game when they didn't even know.
Yeah, I don't really think that that's fair to just try and predict exactly what's going to happen, especially when it's such a ambiguous decision.
I mean, speculation is part of the fun, right? Like, it's fine to speculate, it's fine to share that kind of stuff, and we've been doing that here anyway. But people have been getting really nasty about it, and it's just unsportsmanlike.
Yeah, like I feel like with stuff like this, you should be a good sport about it, and like but it's the internet, so I mean, what do you expect?
Exactly. Well said. All in all, this has been a pretty good adventure. The gameplay wasn't too much to write home about, but when you have a dynamic like this, where players are actually changing the fate of something within the world, something that has consequences not only for characters, but like actual mechanics, like everyone wants an outpost, right? Like that just makes sense. I think that brings this adventure above what it would be otherwise. What do you guys think overall? Final
Definitely,
thoughts.
definitely, the meat of the adventure was the consequences and the player interaction.
Oh yeah.
And I do hope that maybe people aren't as sour if they ever do another adventure like this again. But I can't wait to see what other choices that we'll be able to make, and honestly, the consequences of what happened in this adventure too. I just really am excited to see where the game is going.
I
And I'm
can't.
gonna say,
Oh, sorry, you go.
and I'm going to say that after every podcast is that I'm excited to see where this game goes. This game has not disappointed me yet so far at post season 6 or whatever during season 6 and on.
Anything to add, Cheetah?
I really liked actually feeling involved into the story, like making a fucking difference and stuff, and actual talking points in the community, like in debates. Like that's sick. That's so sick to me. I really like.
I completely agree. It's changed the conversation around the game in such a short amount of time. Like, the week before the adventure, nobody really gave a shit. And we knew for months we were going to be fighting for Golden Sands, but only once the trailer came out, you saw social media flooded with, like, propaganda posters for Merrick and the Servant. The entire, like, discussion changed immediately, and that was what was on everyone's minds. When you would encounter people in game, they would be talking about it. Like, it was such a big thing, and I'm glad it happened. I don't think there will be another choose your own adventure with consequences this steep. Because what other things in game do we appreciate as much as the outposts? Like, you don't appreciate that kind of thing until it's gone.
I think that the next big consequence would be messing with the trading company in some way.
That's very true. I would want to see a kind of adventure where whichever kind of trading company wins, they get like an update specifically around them.
Yeah.
Team Fortress 2 did this a lot back in the day, and I'm really glad they are doing this, because that was the first thing I thought when Sea of Thieves announced the adventures was, this is just the TF2 Wars, where two classes would fight, and whoever won got like an entire new update around them. That's so awesome. That's like a great way to deliver content to your players.
The most recent example from a TF2 would be the Jungle Inferno update, just to name one.
Yeah.
So recently.
Recent is a bit of a stretch there.
Yeah, it's about 5 years ago. But, I mean, TF2, you know?
Yeah. It's timeless. Any other comments?
I'm honestly good. I'm pretty satisfied with this adventure.
All right, I want to thank you guys for joining me, and I want to thank every one of you for watching. Like the video if you did, and subscribe for more. The next adventure will be about Forsaken Hunter, which is the 5th one. Please stay tuned for that, and I'll see you on the seas.
Bye bye.
Bye.